do is share my screen and start you, if you have not already activated an account from Joanne with the new DotLoop. You should have received an email in the last 24 hours or so that looks something like this. But instead of saying my name, it would probably say Joanne has set up an account for you on DotLoop. So again, if you haven't already, you're going to want to go ahead at some point, click on this Get Started button in order to activate that account. When you click on Get Started, you're going to get something that looks like this. It's going to have your name. It's going to have the email address that was used to assign the account. You're going to set your password. You're going to select your role, which is going to be real estate agent, and you're going to select your state, which is going to be New Jersey. And then you're going to go ahead and click sign up. Okay. Now, if you've already done this and you already have an active account, don't have to worry about looking for anything new to reactivate. You're already good to go. When you log in to DotLoop, it's going to look something like this. The first thing that you want to check for when you log in, up in the top right-hand corner, take a look at your profile. I can tell you from experience with the Connection Realtors team that if you have multiple profiles here, you're going to want to address this as soon as possible. When I created this profile for training purposes today, I only have one default profile here created by the real estate leaders. If you have multiple profiles listed here, you're going to want to make sure that you find the one that says the real estate leaders at eXp and identify it as your default profile. Okay. If you need help specifically on that, if you see multiple profiles here and you're not sure how to make the correct one the default, then let me know. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat before we conclude today, and we will help you get that resolved. Okay. That's really important because it does impact later if somebody shares documents with you and a different account is set as your default. It impacts the way that you receive those documents when you go to sign them. Like I said, we've seen some hiccups with Connection Realtors, so I'm just trying to help you avoid those hiccups. Okay. Mm-hmm. As we move forward, as I show you what's going on with the new DotLoop setup here, what I want to make sure that you realize, I stuck in the chat the eXp compliance checklists. Those are really important. And I can bring them up here on my screen just for a second. The compliance checklists are what the transaction compliance folks behind the scenes are using to review compliance on every single transaction in SkySlope. So what we've done in DotLoop and what you're going to see today are templates that are specifically built to make sure that you are addressing these compliance requirements. Okay, so anything that's a document that needs to be generated by the agent to meet one of these compliance items, you will see it has been made part of the templates that we have available. Okay, so again, these are in the chat. So if you want to download them, if you don't already have access to them, this is one of those things that you probably want to keep somewhere and just get familiar with. And certainly our transaction coordinator team is very familiar with these lists as well. And they're going to help you manage compliance on an ongoing basis based on this list. So let's go back to DotLoop. So when you log into your DotLoop account, like I said, make sure that you have only one profile, or if you have multiple profiles, that the real estate leaders at eXp is identified as your default, as your primary. The other thing that you're going to want to do is update some information about yourself under your profile. You could go in and add your cell phone number, go in and add your license number, and this will help down the road when documents are generated so that those fields will automatically fill from the information that you enter in your profile. Okay. So once your profile is in good shape, now let's take a look at how the DotLoop is set up, how you're going to be able to manage transactions. If you only want to see what you have active and don't want to see anything that's closed, which would then be archived, then you can go to this filters button and you can choose to hide the archived or show everything. Okay. Like if I were to go to all and then scroll to the bottom and apply, you'll actually see that I now have 4 tiles, 4 loops, as opposed to 2, because I had some training loops that I previously archived. Okay, so in your case, if you show everything, you're going to see closed and active. And I can easily go back and hide my archive. So if you're concerned, you go in there and you don't see a file, don't panic. Most likely it's just a filter issue. Now, what I really want to spend time talking about is how you can go about creating loops. The reason that we're going over this, certainly you're going to have a team of TCs that can provide support. But many times, if not even most times, agents have preference to create their own loops. So from that standpoint, the more you can do to leverage what we've built into this DotLoop program, specifically for our teams, the better it will be down the road when you pull the TC in to help progress your transaction. Okay, so maybe you want to create the loop, but then you want the TC to go in and prepare all of your documents and so forth. If we create them correctly from the beginning, it makes their job that much easier for you. And it's going to help your loop stay really organized, which is huge in terms of efficiency and compliance. So when you go ahead and add a loop, you just go up to this Add Loop button. And the first thing it's going to ask you for is an address. So I'm going to go ahead and just use, I'm going to be a little bit selfish and use the Unitas title, office address. Okay. And as I'm typing, found my address, and I'm going to hit continue. This next step, template, is where you want to make a big star, make a big note. I can't emphasize this enough. This is where we want you to leverage a loop template. If you bypass this and create a loop from scratch, then you're taking the country roads as opposed to the highway. Let's put it that way in terms of how your transaction is built. There are a number of templates that are in here right now. We had more than this and we continue to pare down. You're going to want to, first of all, let me say, choose a template that begins with eXp. So if you see a buying template, I would avoid that one. Listing lease template, maybe avoid that one. If you can find a template that makes sense for you that starts with eXp. We have listing templates and contract templates here that all start with eXp. And by the weekend, we will have all lease templates, and we will also have some PA templates as well that all start with eXp. We continue to consolidate and trim down, if you will, to get really focused in on those compliance lists I mentioned. So let's say you're in a situation where you've taken a new listing and you want to create a loop. Here's a loop template that starts eXp, and this is for Monmouth Ocean. So for those of you, I think most of you probably using the Monmouth Ocean listing agreement, this is the loop template that you're going to want to select. So you just highlight it, hit continue. If you enjoy adding photos of your properties, if you want to do that, you can do that, but don't need to. So I'm just going to go ahead and bypass that and click done. And now DotLoop is going to create a new loop. Okay, so now you see the tile. Now I want to go ahead and view the loop. So I'm going to click on that button. So take a look at what we have. Now I'm in an active loop. I'm in the active loop for 275 East Main Street in Somerville. Right now, this loop is identified as a listing for sale. I can change it and I can update it to show, if somebody could just mute, thank you. I could change it to an active listing, a pre-listing if it's a coming soon. Once I go under contract, we can update status, okay? That's all done up here. The way that the loops are broken down in your first section, you're going to have documents. Now take a look at what has happened when I created this loop. I have a folder called Compliance Listing. I can close that folder by clicking on the title, or I can open it back up. Everything that we have here in this folder, with the exception of a couple of things at the end, tie back to that compliance checklist that I shared in the chat in the very beginning. These are all things that compliance is going to be looking for to greenlight your transaction to ultimately get you paid. That's the goal. The copy of the check comes in, you want to get paid when that copy comes in. So as long as you follow these templates, they're designed to help keep you on track. We do have a couple of additional items that we've added to this template because we find, we learn from experience. So lockbox waiver and authorization, and for those of you using showing time, these documents provide additional value to your transaction and protect you from liability. And then the last thing is information on association or condominium, only because in my 20 years of title experience behind my real estate experience, that seems like such a difficult thing to get. So the sooner in the process we can try and gather association information, the better. That's why it's become part of the listing agreement, the listing package, if you will. Okay. So this is all basic information designed again to maintain compliance. That's the first folder in the loop. The second folder in the loop is email and other documents. So if you receive, maybe the seller went out and got their own inspection report, or maybe they provided you with a copy of their prior deed or owner's policy, and you want to store that information somewhere, you can absolutely do that here in this email and other documents folder. Below the documents section of the loop, local service providers. Those service providers you can update based on information that you know about title company, mortgage company. In my experience personally, I typically go directly down to people to add the parties to the transaction. Okay, so right now for people, because I created the loop, it's identifying myself as a party to the loop, and it's also identifying the two admin accounts, the admin for the global eXp Realty for our global account, and then also the team, the admin for the real estate leaders team. The first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to assign myself a role because I'm here, but the loop doesn't know who I am, how I relate to this transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm the listing agent. And then let's say I'm going to go ahead and add two sellers. Okay, so let's say we have seller A. I'm just going to add a generic email address. And then once I add the email address, I need to identify this person's role. This is going to be a seller. Once I identify the role, additional fields will open up that I can choose to populate or not. I encourage you to be as thorough as you can, at least with email address, phone, and physical address, because the more you enter here in these fields, the more you'll be able to take advantage of autofill when we get to the actual document generation. Okay, let me just go ahead quickly and add a seller B and make my husband very happy by putting in his Gmail address. And let's call him a seller and add him as well. Okay, so now you see I've added seller A and seller B. Their roles have been identified and I'm there as the listing agent. Okay, so we've seen documents, local service providers, people, and then tasks. Tasks are not something that you have to concern yourself with unless it's a concept that you enjoy and value in the way that you manage your business. The tasks that have been created here are specifically action items that the TCs will follow up on when they are managing a loop on your behalf. Okay, specific events that they want reminders for, not part of their normal job description. So for example, them creating loops, creating documents, managing sky slope, you're not going to find those things in the task list because that's part of their standard job description. But when we put something here in the task list, it allows us to create and generate email reminders that will go to the TCs. And that's what's going to help them stay on track and sort of tell them on a daily basis what loops, what files need their attention, and in what respect. Okay. If you wanted to leverage tasks, you can certainly add tasks to the list. You'll see there's an option to do that at the bottom, but otherwise feel free to just not even scroll down that far or just close that folder and leave that for the TCs once you are fully on board with TC support. Okay. So the only other thing I want to address before I start creating documents is I want to go ahead and add some details about the property.
Deanna?
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the obviously we're going through the process of getting connected with our TCs, but so anything that you want to communicate or relay to the TC has to be put in the task area?
So what's going to happen is we have a shared mailbox system. So we have one mailbox where all new requests come in. So let's say, for example, you like to create your own loops, but you want the TCs to jump in and then from there, review the information and generate the documents on your behalf.
And is that a mailbox via email or through
Yes.
DotLoop?
Yes, no, it's via email. So
okay, I think that needs to be very clarified because
that's what I'm explaining right now.
Mailbox. Okay.
Yep. So what happens is, let's say you're in that scenario where you've created the loop and now you want the TC to step in and prepare some documents for you and send them out for signature. You would send an email to a shared email inbox, and I can put that email. I'll circle back once I stop sharing my screen, but it's a shared mailbox where all of our TC staff share access to it. We have TCs that start earlier in the morning, TCs that work later in the evening, and we're also building in weekend support as well. So all you would do is send an email to that shared email inbox saying,
Yes.
I've created.
So there's just going to be one email address that everybody needs to know. That's
Yes.
the bottom line. Everyone's
Yes.
going to be using the same one email address, which is?
It's tc@goconnectionnj.com.
That's it. So all of your emails will be sent to tc@goconnectionnj.com, and all of your document tasks, transaction requests, whatever they may be, will be answered upon receipt. And whoever is on at that moment, whatever TCs are on at that moment, will be handling that request. So the agents aren't getting specific dedicated TCs for that one agent. It's just that email address is your email address, and everything you have going on will get tackled, and the TCs, whoever's up, will know how to handle your situation because they'll be referencing the loop, and everyone's going to be very fluent on what exactly gets done. It's going to be very systematic, very uniform. Anyway, go ahead, Deanna.
Yep. And again, the point of using the templates is to further enhance the concept of uniformity and consistency, that the more we are all following the same format, the easier it will be to manage compliance and fill in gaps and address needs on a loop by loop basis. Okay. So the last thing in creating the loop is to go ahead and add, if you want to add any other information about the property. We already entered the property address at the start, but if you have a list price, if you have a commission split information that you want to enter before any of your listing documents are created, you can go ahead and do that here. Once you add those additional details, you can go back to the loop. Now, let me just stop for a second. I just want to go back and take a look at the chat. So I mentioned that there are loop templates. They're eXp listing templates. So far, we have 5 that are built. We have Nexus, we have Mammoth Ocean, we have Garden State, we have Cumberland, and we have Gloucester Salem. So I'm making a note here. We will add Hudson, Central Jersey, and New Jersey MLS. And I can go back and show you again where those templates are. So we will add in to make sure that you have listing loop templates that are built for these MLSs as well. See, and I will show you in a minute how you can add a document to a loop. Yes. And
Ultimately, we probably need Trend and Garden State as well, just FYI.
okay, and Garden State is there already.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
One thing that we do have to work on is getting the Garden State form to an autofill point. Right now, it's got to be manually filled, but we're looking to continue to enhance the documents. DotLoop has to provide that support to convert documents to autofill. Okay.
Trend uses Monmouth listing agreements.
Monmouth Ocean, right?
Yes.
Okay, great, which is already in there. So if we go back, so now let's say I've entered all the information that I want to enter in order to create my documents. Now I can go back, and again, this is something that you can choose to do, or you can leverage the TCs to do. I just want to make sure that you understand the functionality that's available to you with all the changes that have been made in DotLoop. What you can do is click on an individual document. The first thing it's going to do is ask you for some information in order to leverage autofill. Now, if you've already entered this information in those prior places where I told you people and details of the property, then you're going to see stuff is already included. So seller A, seller B that I named are already there. I'm already there as a listing agent. Property address is already entered. So if I go ahead and click, I have to keep moving the Zoom people, click autofill. Here comes the Monmouth Ocean agreement, and it's already pre-filled with the information that I entered previously. So now I would just go in and make any additional edits on any of the fields that have not been populated, where there might be some information required. And you'll see at the bottom, these documents are already set up to receive agent signatures, seller signatures. Okay. And so let's say I don't want to make any changes at this point. I'm happy with how this form auto-filled. I'm going to go ahead and save it. You'll see there's an option to save and share, but we're not ready. We have a few documents to work through. So at this point, we're just going to save the changes. And then we're going to hit this arrow button. It's going to ask us again, do we want to share it? Well, no, we're not quite ready. We want to put a few documents together. The last thing that your client wants is 5 separate emails for 5 separate documents they have to sign. So we're not ready to share. Okay, so now you'll see that this document is no longer bolded. It's because now we've accessed it and gone in and done something with it. You have the fair housing letter, which actually I think might already be included. I might have seen that at the back end of that Monmouth Ocean listing agreement. But we include that as a standard part of the package that goes out to the agent because it's a compliance requirement that we deliver that to the seller. You have your consumer information statement. Again, the autofill box comes up. We don't know who our buyer's agent is at this point, but I've identified myself as the listing agent, so I'm going to go ahead and autofill. Now, let's say on this document, we want the sellers to sign. So I can go in and make an edit right in this document. I can type in my name. And then I can assign, you'll see there are signature fields, but when I hover over them, they're not assigned to anybody yet. I can go ahead and assign that field. And let's say I want seller A to sign here. And then in the second signature box, I'm going to assign that to seller B. Okay. So now when I go back and click on those, you could see up in the top left-hand corner, it's telling me who it's assigned to. Okay. I don't have buyer information at this point. So let's say I is a member of eXp Realty. Let's see. So let's say I'm content with how this is filled out, set my signatures. Again, I'm just going to save. Hit that back arrow button to go back to my document list. Not ready to share. Again, autofill. It's already identified my sellers. It's identified me as the listing agent, my property address, autofill. You'll see in this case where initials are required, it's already set up to receive seller A and seller B's initials through autofill. I can click on, again, these signature lines and see that they too are also already assigned to seller A and seller B. So I'm ready to save this. Let's just go to this last one, informed consent. Go ahead and autofill. Save. Okay, so now I'm back to my compliance folder, my listing folder. And let's say I've made the decision that I don't need these lockbox documents, the waiver or the authorization. I can come over to the right-hand side, click on the archive button, and it'll remove that document from the list. So let's say I decide that I don't need any of these showing time or lockbox. I'm going to go ahead and archive each one. And then I'm going to leave the association condominium sheet so that I can go ahead and, again, take advantage of time and try to get that information as soon in the process as I possibly can. Okay, let's say there's one other document that I want to add that's not here in the basic transaction. Let's say I'm doing a coming soon where this property is not going live for 3 weeks. In that case, if you are in a coming soon status and you are representing it that way on the MLS, then eXp compliance will want a delayed showing coming soon document signed. We have that document. The way that you would add it is you would just click on Add Document, and we're going to go to Templates. When you go to Templates, you are going to have a myriad of options to choose from. Okay, there's a ton of documents here. Just like I mentioned that we continue to scale down and consolidate on the loop templates, we continue to scale down on the documents available in this library. For the most part, anything that you need that relates to the listing, you're going to find here in Listing Packet All. So once I click on that, this is all the individual documents that are contained within that folder. So I'm just going to scroll through until I find that delayed showing. And here it is, coming soon, delayed showing. I'm going to check it. And if there were multiple documents that I wanted to add from here, I can just click on all of them at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and copy them into the loop. It'll let me know it's completed and hit OK. So now when I go back to my compliance listing folder, you'll see at the top, I have gone ahead and added the coming soon delayed showing document. When I click on it, it'll do the same thing that the other documents did, asking me for autofill. If there's anything else that I wanted to add here, I could. If I'm content with the information, just hit autofill. It's going to go ahead and fill out the document. And you'll see again that this document needs me to assign the fields. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that seller A is assigned to this one, that seller B is assigned to this one, and this one's already assigned to me. You see if I hover over it, it's already assigned to Deanna B. Okay, and I can go ahead and save. Does that all make sense so far? Is there anybody who wants to ask a question up to this point? I'm going to check the chat real quick while we're doing that.
Hi, Deanna, this is Alfredo. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. So someone like myself who's only, had one listing, right? And probably that one listing I was helped probably by several people to get it done. Let's say I have a new listing coming up. What can you just give me maybe an example of what that process would be like from, am I filling out a form? Am I getting this started and then a transaction coordinator is going to help me out? Or what would that look like? Again, because this would only be my second time in general, never mind using a whole new system.
Sure. So like I said, next week from a TC standpoint, from leveraging the transaction coordinator standpoint, you're going to get an email, you individually next week, that will ask you some questions about what level of service you want to receive from the TC team. Okay. There you can absolutely say, I want everything, like soup to nuts. And let's say you go that route and that you're the type of agent. And again, this is going to vary from person to person. Maybe you say, I am completely happy to put everything in an email or just fill out one intake form. And I'm going to show you where those intake forms are. Send it off to the TC at Go Connection NJ email, and then let the TCs get to work for you. The TCs can create the loop. They can go into DotLoop for you. They can create the loop for you. They can send out documents for signature on your behalf so that you don't have to worry about doing any of this. But for as many agents as there might be in that category who are happy to have the TCs take it from the very beginning, there are an equal number of agents that say, I want to create my own loops. So if that's the case, that's why this information is important and why I'm trying to convey, if you are creating a loop yourself, setting up the initial functions of the loop yourself, please do it this way so that when the TC steps in and picks up and sort of takes the baton from you, going around the track, if you will, they're picking up with a format that's already geared towards compliance, that they're not trying to figure out, it's kind of like, if you hand somebody your shopping list and hand them your cart, and you just were sort of haphazardly putting things in the cart, somebody's got to go through and take everything out of the cart, figure out what you already got, and then figure out what you still need. So the purpose of the templates is to make that handoff really easy and, again, progress the transaction for you so that you're getting things done fast. Documents can go out that much faster to your clients for signature. And then ultimately, compliance is super important to making sure you get paid same day. Super important.
I'm going to go see a house on Friday and this person on Monday tells me, you know what, I want to move forward. At that point, I can either create the loop myself or fill out the intake form. Everything will get put together. Then I'll tell, client, whoever, hey, please look out for an email. It's going to have all the documents. Let me know if you need me to kind of walk you through it. Because the one time I did it was actually like in person. So it's a little, I don't know. So I'm just trying to like envision what this is going to look like. Because I went from having no listings to potentially having a few coming up. So I don't want to like kind of come off as like the rookie
Not
agent.
at all. Not at all. What you're going to come off as is being the agent, the rock star who got all the listings, who's got this great team of agents that's going to step in and handle all of the administrative,
That's what I'm selling. So I want to make sure I can back that up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from a listing standpoint, this is the way that this is what's happening. So whether you choose to start it or have the TC start it from the beginning, this is what's actually happening step by step.
Okay.
On the flip side of that, just while we're talking about that, what your experience is with your clients, there are a lot of situations where you're dealing with buyers and, you want to, in the moment, create an offer to purchase that can be immediately submitted to a listing agent. You'll have the ability to do that yourself from within DotLoop. In as much as we have, 7-day-a-week coverage where we're looking to give you this robust team of TCs, that is the one area that I would probably still encourage the agent to be very hands-on with, because you're there in the moment with your buyer, putting the offer together, discussing the terms of what the offer is going to look like. And because things happen so fast, sometimes an hour or two makes all the difference in how your offer is received and interpreted by the listing agent, that's usually something that the agent still wants to handle themselves. So you have the ability to, if you have this general understanding of DotLoop, then you can go in and create a loop and create an offer to purchase. And then once that offer is accepted, boom, send an email to the shared mailbox and say, we're ready to go to contract. Here's the intake form. Here's all the information. Please prepare the contracts and let's get them out for signature.
Got it. Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? Great. And good for you on the listings. That's fantastic.
Trying, hopefully.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm just checking the chat as we go along. Okay, just making sure I haven't missed anything there. Okay. Taking a look at my, okay, so now I think we're at the point I've shown you how to leverage the autofill for the documents that we need, showed you how to add something into the loop if it's missing, showed you how to remove things that you don't need. So let's say you're ready to go ahead and send something out for signature. Again, and I emphasized this all along the way to Alfredo's question a moment ago, the TCs will have the ability to do all of this for you, but it's, there are still going to be agents within the group that prefer to do it themselves. So this is how you would do it. If you're ready to share your documents and want to get them signed, I'm a little bit OCD about certain things. I just think the listing agreement should be first, and I think that the coming soon should fall later down in the list. So I'm going to go ahead and move it to the back. And I'm content now with how my documents are arranged. So I'm going to start checking off all the documents that I want to send out for signature. I could have probably just gone the easy way and just checked off everything in the folder. But if you didn't want to send everything in the folder, you have the ability to pick and choose. Now I'm ready to share. I'm going to click on the share button, and it's going to ask me who I want to share these documents with. I'm going to go ahead and, in this case, I'm talking about a listing transaction. So I'm sharing them with seller A and seller B. I'm giving them the authority to sign. I can also, if I choose, give them the ability to fill and sign. So if there are documents that they maybe need to complete, like the seller's property disclosure or the homeowners association, I want to give them the ability to add and fill in some of those fields and then also provide their signature. If I wanted to, I can't necessarily think of a circumstance right off the bat, but if there was, if I had a co-agent that I work with in my office that I knew I was going on vacation and I just wanted to make sure that they could see what I was doing with these clients. I don't know, it's just a random, I could add that person here, that other agent, and I could give them viewing only rights. Just want to make sure that they know what's going on, but they don't have any ability to alter or sign the documents. Once I'm satisfied with who I'm sharing with, I just go ahead and hit share. DotLoop will take a few moments to go ahead and create the documents and then send them out for signature. And then you're going to get this message. These documents have been shared, waiting on others. So now I'm done. If I return back to my loop, I'm going to see in my documents folder that now I'm waiting on others. Okay, that means they've gone out for signature. As items are signed, these statuses will continue to update so that I can see who's missing. So in this case, if I hover over the listing agreement, I'm waiting on seller and seller. Well, that's seller A and seller B. If I had put in, John and Jane, and Jane signed, but John didn't, then if I hover over this waiting on others, it would stay still waiting on John to sign. Okay. So this is the beginning of the loop from a listing standpoint. What the TCs will do is, as this transaction progresses to contract, is we will build on this loop and add additional folders. So right now you see compliance listing. When you get to the point where this is a pending transaction, there are going to be 2 additional folders that we want to add in to this loop. And they are going to be compliance contract and compliance closing. So let's say, go back to my loop. So here's my loop at my login screen, my 275 East Main. So let's say I'm at that point where I'm ready to update the transaction. I'm going to change it to a purchase, and I'm going to change my status to under contract. It's automatically going to ask me to make sure I enter a sales price and a closing date, which I can do right from here. I could also go into the view details, and I can update that information there. So let's say my purchase price is $1 and save. So when I'm back here at the loop, again, keeping format consistent, I'm going to add a folder and I'm going to call it compliance contract. Now let's just say I'm in a situation where I'm only serving as listing agent. I'm not serving as dual agent. So now I'm going to add documents to this folder. I'm going to go into templates, and you'll see I have a couple of folders here: compliance contract for dual agent, compliance contract for list only. I reiterate through this whole thing to Chris Walsh's point in the very beginning, the TC can be doing all of this for you. But for those agents in our group that want to do some of this themselves, please, I encourage you, leverage these documents because they are directly tied to compliance. So here I am, list only. I'm going to click on that folder and I'm going to select all the documents there. Anything that has the word compliance in front of it means that we've created that folder to tie back directly to eXp compliance checklists. Go ahead and copy them into the loop and hit OK. So now you will see I have a new folder, compliance contract. Here's my compliance listing. We already went through those documents. And here's my email and other documents. Okay. When you get to the point where you're under contract, the one other folder that we're going to create is a compliance closing folder. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, all while we're building the loop. I'm going to call it compliance closing. Go back to the templates, and here you go, compliance closing. There are two documents here. I'm going to select. It's going to let me know it's imported. So now I have 4 folders. The goal here, even if the TC is building your loop for you and sending documents for you, you might get to the point where you need to view something in your loop. If you're leveraging this format, then you know these are the 4 folders that you should be working from. And these are the way that your documents are going to be organized. So it's either a closing driven document where you have a commission payment form, a pre-settlement inspection form, and then your CDA that eXp generates, your commission disbursement authorization, will automatically get added in here when it's issued by accounting. Copy of your commission check, copy of the ALTA will get added here in this folder when they are received at the time of closing. Those are specifically the compliance closing items. Then you have compliance contract. These are all of the documents, again, related to compliance. This includes all of the addendums that eXp specifically references on the compliance checklist. That doesn't mean that you have to get all these completed. They're only there because they're part of compliance. But if they don't apply to your transaction, then either you or the TC will simply archive them to remove them from the list. So let's say we don't need these. I can just go through and archive. Okay. Let's say though that this is an as-is property. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the as-is addendum as I archive the others. Okay. Let's say we leave these others here as well. Just like what we did with the compliance listing documents, you can click on each individual document. Autofill will come up. Now, at this point, I would want to have gone back and updated my people to include buyer names, buyer email addresses, and buyer physical mailing addresses so that autofill does the job for me when I get to this point, that I'm not having to go back and redo. I'm not going to do that now for the sake of time. But again, to the extent that you want to, you'll be able to leverage the TCs to do all of this. Or if you prefer to do it, just know that the more that you enter back here in your loop under people, I scroll down here under people, adding the buyers with their complete information, the better autofill will work for you when you get to the point of document creation. Okay. You can go through the same process here, or the TC will on your behalf, in order to generate the documents, send them out for signature. Now, when the TC sends documents out for signature, if we were to go and hit share here, it's not going to be coming from your email address. It's going to be coming from the individual TC who prepared them. In that case, we have custom messaging that goes here with the email that explains that we are sending them out on your behalf for signature on the closing of, 275 East Main Street. Okay, so we are always tying back our communications to you as the agent on the transaction. The important thing for you to understand here is that the TCs will, they are looking to take on these administrative responsibilities, so you don't have to be concerned with them. They're taking on the compliance management, so you don't have to be concerned about it. You sort of have the benefit of somebody saying this is what we need without you having to do all of that research and confirmation yourself. But ultimately, direct contact with the client by phone or in person is entirely the duty of the agent in this model. It's important that you understand that both sides of that coin, that the TCs, it's your job to make sure that your client is content, that the relationship is cultivated. You don't have to worry about your client receiving phone calls that you don't know about. Only if there's a specific issue. For example, you might be dealing with a client who hates technology, and maybe you're not so much a fan yourself, but it's like a necessary evil. You can say to maybe it's Donna, who I saw was on the call today. Maybe Donna prepared the documents for your client, and you can reach out to Donna and say, can you do me a favor? Can you just call the client and just talk them through the electronic signature piece? They're having a little bit of trouble, and they would feel better if someone talked them through it. And I would feel better if it was you, not me. Then in that case, you're specifically requesting that contact for a very specific purpose. But outside of that, anything having to do with client contact and relationship cultivation is left entirely to the agent. Recognize that the TCs are there to provide administrative support and take all of these time-consuming, though necessary, responsibilities off of your plate. Okay. Is there any other questions so far on any of this information? I'll go back and check the chat. Looks like we have. Is there a way to unarchive? Oh, and Joanne. Joanne, can you send me those two? Can you keep a list and we'll deal with those two offline? I want to make sure that we include those
Of course.
in the folder. Yeah.
I'll keep the list going.
Perfect. So recognize that certainly from our standpoint with the TCs that we can, like I said, just as we continue to pare down on things we don't need, we will continue to broaden where we do. And then we can leverage our relationship and our account with DotLoop to be able to get more and more things to the point where they're autofill. So it requires less and less individual manipulation from loop to loop. Is there a way to unarchive a folder? So let me go back and take a look at all, including my archived folders. So you'll see here, right now it's telling me with this gray bar that this is archived. Let me take this test file, test 7.2 we called it, and I'm going to go ahead and hit unarchive. So now you'll see that the archived notation has been removed. It's no longer grayed out. Now it's blue. So if I go back and reset my filter to remove the archived from my list, my test 7.2 loop will remain because it's no longer archived. So yes, you can do that. Okay. The one other thing that I just want to show you for those of you who are interested in being able to create an offer to purchase, you can add a loop. Let's say that you are, looking at 123 Main Street. And rather than choose a loop template that starts with listing, you would find this loop template for a buyer only. So you haven't had any relationship directly to the seller on the listing of the property. You're just coming in with the buyer. You could select this loop template and hit continue. Skip the photo. And then it's going to create a loop. Once the loop is created, you'll see that the first item in the list is a proposal to purchase that you can fill out, okay? Same concept, because we're creating a brand new loop. Before you start doing any, clicking into any documents, you really want to be able to go in and add your people, add your buyers, make sure that your property address is complete so that when you go to click on that proposal to purchase, Autofill does its job for you. You'll see also that the tasks again are there, but those are designed to assist the TCs to create action items to help you move the transaction forward, calendar to-dos, if you will, that you can simply close if you don't want to see those when you're viewing the loop. Okay. Any questions up to this point? No, let me check the chat. I don't think there's anything new there. Okay, so I think with Joanne, there are a couple of additional documents that we're going to be adding to, again, further enhance and make sure that you have everything that you need to build your loops. Most important thing I would emphasize is just right now, make sure that you're leveraging those loop templates and building on compliance to best.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
So for, the need for speed as an agent, you're out in the field, you're working with buyers, and even, the market's still really busy. If we want the TC to do everything, right, rather than us jumping in our car, trying to do DotLoop on our phone, which is very, constraining and not easy, is there a format or is there a text format that we can just send to the TC, address, client's name, offer price, down payment, closing date? That would be the ultimate, piece that I think would help all of us when we're out in the field, because I don't know how the other agents feel about it, but trying to do stuff on your phone is, to me, is counterproductive. It's just, it's the whole format is constricted. It's small. You can't see it properly. So the perfect scenario for me, and I'm just throwing this out there, is that we have some type of text format that we can send to the TC at goconnection.com, and then everything goes in automation from there. That's like the ultimate dream. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but that seems to be the ultimate dream.
That's a great dream. I second that.
So absolutely you can. So what we have here under agent service requests, this is where you'll be able to continue to fill in information, to notify the TCs that you want exactly what you're saying, Don, that you want to be able to just give them the basics and have them create the documents. Absolutely, that can be done. You can absolutely just sit on your phone and just send an email directly to TC at goconnectionnj.com and say, here's John Smith, Jane Smith, putting in an offer on 123 Main Street, Marlton, New Jersey, $200,000, how much down, type of financing, all the things that you would expect to build into your offer. Remember though, that the document that the TC generates is only going to be as complete and as thorough as the information that you feed into that email. So it's still ultimately the agent who's got to be responsible for making sure that you've thought all of that through. But then absolutely the TCs can create the proposal to purchase and send it out as you instruct. Other agents may say, here's all the information, please forward it to me and I will submit to the listing agent. Maybe you want to be the one to hit the send button as you're calling the agent saying the offer's coming over, I'd like to talk with you about it. Let me know you received it. So this will be about you driving the train in terms of how you want to, get the journey going, if you will. The one thing though that I will mention is we are a 7-day-a-week service, but we are not a 24/7 service. So right now we're looking at having about, I think on Saturdays we have about 8 hours, like 9 to 4, 8 to 4, and Sundays right now is half a day. So if you're sitting with a client at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, given the market that we're in, you don't want to not be able to create that proposal to purchase yourself, because it probably won't be received until 7:30 or 8 o'clock the next morning.
Okay, so Sunday is a half a day. And are you guys looking to expand on that? Like, would it be, cost effective to cut the hours down on Monday and Tuesday and invest that on the Saturday and Sunday?
We absolutely are working to expand and continue to provide additional support. No doubt about that, but a lot of that is really going to depend on leveraging the services as they stand today. So, one of the other things too, for example, that we have built into our services is that we can provide MLS support. But again, out of 200 or so agents that we're talking about here, some agents want TCs to have nothing to do with their MLS. Other agents say, do it all, please take it all off my plate. So it's about understanding what each agent is going to want to leverage and how much they're going to need from the team that will dictate how we continue to evolve and grow going forward. As we send out the intake forms, those individual survey forms that go out next week to you, I would encourage you to include that feedback. What you will get from us is you'll get sort of a cheat sheet, a contact sheet that you can maybe take a picture of and save on your phone that'll have the email address where you send all your requests. We're also working to create a hotline so that you just have to know that one phone number and it will ring to whatever TCs are working at that particular moment. So I appreciate that a lot of the feedback we've heard as we've made this move to a virtual brokerage concept is that people still want to feel like they have the opportunity to talk to somebody. So that's what the hotline is going to be. We hope to have that up and running by the end of next week as well. So provide that feedback at the time that you tell us what your expectations are, and then you'll have all of the information about the hours of service, again, how to reach the TCs through the shared mailbox, how to reach them through the hotline, and then best leverage those services to help you manage the relationship, let them manage the paperwork.
Do we have a date set for next week for this meeting, or I don't know if I missed that?
I don't have a meeting date set yet for the formal rollout of the TCs, but you should expect by Monday or Tuesday to have a request in your email to complete that information, that survey about what services you're looking for.
Got it.
Yep. And what we're hoping to do is have all of that feedback no later than the end of next week.
Okay.
So that I'm anticipating by, say, maybe August 2nd or the 3rd, we're saying, okay, you're ready to go, start submitting your live requests to the TCs to process.
Obviously, in the meantime, I already got the email. I went in. This is all ready to go, the DotLoop.
Yes, that's the first part. If we tried to do all of that today in one day, it's a lot. There's a lot to absorb there. So what I wanted to make sure that everyone knew today is that this is the DotLoop that has been built specifically to manage your transactions in the eXp environment. And now let's move forward and get everybody up and running with TC support to further help you enhance your business.
Quick question, as
Sure.
Dawn had asked about, on a weekend or something, when you're on the road and you need to put an offer in and have all the paperwork done from the TC. Once you send all that, like you said, through the email, through the email, you give them all the information, and then we can then go into the DotLoop and can make sure it's all accurate and send it out?
Yes. So thank you very much, Laura. So that back to what I was saying before, if you wanted to just put all of the information into an email, that this is what I need, here are the pertinent details to the transaction, and this is how I want to receive it. So if you want to be able to review a contract or review a proposal to purchase, then your instruction to the TC is going to be, please send the document to me, or please let me know when I can view it in the loop, or maybe you're content to have the TC send it out directly, then that's your instruction. Please send out to all parties for signature once prepared. So it's the TC reacting to what you want done with the transaction. And again, with 200 agents, there are going to be agents in that group that say, I want to review everything. And there are agents who don't. And I completely respect that. But it's up to you to be able to set the tone with the TC to say, this is what I need you to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Sure. Are there any other, I need to check the chat. Any other questions?
Just to confirm, I think somebody asked it before. Once all this paperwork is done, it could then still be our responsibility to load it into the MLS, right? Like for example, I know like when you list something in GSMLS, there's some overlapping towns with NJMLS, it requires both MLS to get the paperwork. That's going to be on us, or?
So the TCs will provide MLS support and enter transactions into the MLS on your behalf. That will require you providing your login information in order to be able to do that. So as long as that's something that you're comfortable with, absolutely leverage those services and we will provide that support. That's another area too, that as we gauge the feedback from the agents and see how many agents are going to leverage MLS, that we may end up ultimately expanding to just have a resource or even multiple resources that are handling MLS requests, because obviously that's a very time-consuming responsibility.
I'm not saying that we can't do it. I'm just trying to think of like all the different steps from like starting the paperwork to it being in compliance.
Yep, absolutely. And I know that these have gone out maybe in a couple of other formats, but let me go back to the chat and I can include they're basically like job lists of all the services that the TCs can provide support to you with. Let me go back. Okay. So I just added those in the chat. And again, those are essentially the list of services that we will offer. So as you complete your survey form, if you are the type of agent, when you list a property, you want open public records searched on every listing, you would indicate that in your survey. If you only want Oprah reports Oprah on certain properties, then you would just identify that in the communication that you're sending to the TC when you request services on that particular transaction. The idea of the shared mailbox is to make sure that you have access to a team of professionals who will provide support to your business at various times of day, various days of the week, and that you as the agent aren't impacted because one person finishes at 5, or because one person is on vacation, or because one person called out sick today. The shared mailbox is designed to alleviate you as the agent of all of those stresses. Having said that, some of the feedback that we've got is that an agent wishes that they had like more personal reference to know like who specifically was working on their transaction or their loop. And quite frankly, that could be anyone on the team at any given time over the weeks of time that we're working on your transaction to get it from listing to closing. But at any given moment, we've tried to ramp up our response communications to make sure that an individual TC is signing off from that shared mailbox email to say, hey, this is Christy, who just helped you, or this is Ruth, or we have Amanda and Sean. We have a great team of professionals that all bring varied expertise, a variety of experience, and unique skill set that collectively are going to be like total rock stars for your business. I appreciate that it's taken us some time to get to this point, and I certainly respect everyone's patience and value it very much because we've all been through a lot this year. But I'm super excited about what this is going to be able to do for your business and for ultimately the amount of time that you're going to find back in your schedule, because you won't have to manage these tasks yourself. So, and again, feedback is super important. So I'm going to put my email address here too. And I'll put my cell. I always want that feedback. And I am human, so I love positive feedback as much as any other kind of feedback. So if there's something that's not going right, if there's something you'd like to see done even more, or if there's something that you're just really impressed with, I want to hear all of that, because it lets us know that we're either meeting the expectation or that we can push ourselves to do more. To answer your question, Lynn, I appreciate that. Where are these agents working from? So my husband, Chris, and I have been in business together for over 20 years. And up until the last 18 months, everything was always done locally and in the office. COVID taught us something different. And I think it's what helped us open our minds to the concept of a virtual brokerage with eXp. Having said that, so everybody on the TC team is a remote full-time employee. And we may be hiring additional part-time to fill in those weekends, to Don's point. I have 2 individuals out of those 5 that live physically in the central to northern Jersey area. I have 2 that live in the South Jersey area. And I have 1 who lives in Georgia, believe it or not, and who makes a killer peach jam. So I'll leave it to each of you to figure out who she is to get on her good side. And she has background in real estate. She understands the TC concept, has served as a TC, but what she also brings into the mix is that she actively sold with eXp. So she provides a whole nother layer of context and understanding when it comes to compliance and how eXp works. So like I said, each person on the team brings a unique and just fantastic skill set that everybody together is going to be, I think, super fantastic for you, and you'll feel the benefit of it.